Welcome back to another episode of the Unblock Your BS podcast. Now, today we are having a coaching conversation, and this is for those who have done so much work on themselves. Maybe you've read the books, you've listened to the podcast, learned about nervous system regulation in therapy, and still find themselves wide awake at 3 a.m. with the thoughts that just keep looping and the overthinking and the anxiousness, wondering, why am I still triggered? Why do I still feel like I'm failing? Today, I'm coaching longtime listener of the podcast, Autumn. She's recently divorced, navigating an actually healthy relationship with her ex. She's also writing a book, but she is running into this very familiar loop of, I keep doing all this work, but why don't I feel any different? Why do I still feel like I'm not enough? So in this episode, we get into how the fear of failure and asking yourself that question incessantly of, am I enough, is quietly running and ruining your whole life. So we talk about why you go into functional freeze even when you're still performing at work, meaning you're showing up, but you were completely disengaged and disconnected from yourself. We're going to talk about why your brain is doing what it's doing at 2 or 3 a.m. when it's looping and will not let you rest or sleep. We're going to talk about the difference between being enough versus trying to do enough to earn love and that whole performative love. We're going to talk about what your brain is really doing when it wakes you up at 3 a.m. and will not let you sleep, because there's a very specific reason why your brain is doing that. And the difference between being enough versus trying to do enough, all to earn love. We're going to dive into how your childhood affects your adult relationships, and you're going to get a very specific example of why this keeps showing up for Autumn in her adult relationships. You're going to hear her have some big ahas in real time around people pleasing, performing, and shifting from being a human doing to being a human being. And my guess is you're going to find aspects of her story all over your life. So if you're listening and realizing, okay, I don't want to just intellectually get this, I want to support actually living it and feeling better, you can always book a one-on-one call with me, or you can join me inside of the Self-Aware Army. And that's my membership where we do nervous system work, breath work, and self-work together every single month. All right, let's get into my conversation today with Autumn. All right, Autumn, welcome to the Unblock Your BS podcast. You've been a listener for a long time, and now here you are.
And here I am. Yes, I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay. Well, let's just dive right in, rip the Band-Aid off. I know you've been doing a lot of nervous system regulation learning and practicing. And so you kind of reached some level of understanding how it works and doing some breath work. Talk to me about, in this process of learning nervous system regulation, where you still are struggling with it, or where you might still have questions or blocks and how to master it at a new level.
I think right now, just recently divorced, still in contact with my ex-wife, which is good. We're in a good space. But when we start talking about how things could be indifferent or how changes weren't happen soon enough, still brings stuff up that's within inside me, and then it starts playing like games with my breathing and my overthinking and like, am I still like on like what's happening? What's like, I've done all this work, but what's cropping up? Why am I still being triggered by this?
Yeah. It's almost as if healing isn't linear, right? I hate that phrase. And it's also wildly true. Yeah, like, you get better, you can get better, and then, "Oop, we have a little snafu." Um, there's also something to be said about healing in isolation, right? When we get through a breakup, a divorce, and we take time alone and we kinda learn ourselves and we get to a good place by ourselves, then we start getting back into relational dynamics, whether it's even just having a conversation with an ex or you start dating again, it's gonna bring up your relational triggers that can only be healed within relationships. So in some ways, it's just more information of new layers that still need attention. So let's get into some specifics. Is there a specific example or a specific feeling that comes up when you're having these conversations with your ex-wife?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of like revert back to like, am I still failing?
Feeling
Or
what?
am I still failing at my like progress? Like, I feel like sometimes I with that block and my nervous system goes in overdrive where my mind's racing and it's at nighttime, usually nighttime when you're not like, I heard your podcast, you're not supposed to use your bed to problem solve. Uh, so that's where a lot of my overthinking is, in those quiet moments at nighttime when I kind of start overanalyzing like the questions and conversations, and then it goes back to one of the biggest things is for me is I've always had that kind of fear of failure. Like, I felt like no matter what I did, to try to save my marriage that I was still failing. And sometimes that still resonates with me and feels like it's still sitting inside of me, and sometimes, like, I feel like I can't get it released.
Beautiful. And is that showing up in any other areas of your life as far as that fear of failure?
Yes, I currently, um, I'm starting to work on a book,
I
and
love it.
and that whole process of, like, "Am I good enough? Is this material enough? What if I fail?" And then, then you have that fear, like, I guess, like, the fear of unknown, and then I've heard, like, the fear of unknown is just our brains playing a big game with ourselves. But yes, working on a book, putting ideas down, and, like, reliving my whole, like, your story and breaking it down into parts, because there's several different parts on this journey, like, losing, close to losing 180 pounds at this point in time.
Yeah.
Um, the everything that I've learned from, like, being married, going through divorce, but also being involved in a relationship too that it was short term, but I completely threw myself into it, self-abandoned, and found so many cracks that I was like, "Oh, that's good," and realized that I had only surface level put a Band-Aid on it. And those between, like, the conversations with my ex-wife, and then also, like, going through the period of time of where I self-abandoned and went into a very dark place
Yeah.
and didn't use my tools and didn't do all the things that I know how to do. I self-abandoned, laid on the couch a lot, uh, and, functionally depressed, like, did my work and then laid on the couch at nighttime.
Yeah. It's a functional freeze.
Yes, complete functional freeze. And so listening to your podcast, like, learning about that whole aspect of regulating your nervous system, and then also some of the inner child work too that I've been doing too has, like, showed up, because going, am I operating for my 6-year-old self or my teenage self or my adult self? Like, how would my
Yeah.
adult self handle this?
Yeah. And so let me ask you this. Is there a difference between the question of asking, am I enough, and the fear of failure or the unknown, or is that all the same in your body?
Ooh, I have to breathe in on that one.
There's no right or wrong here. I'm just trying to understand your experience of it.
Yeah. Because am I enough hits in all those areas, like, just questioning, like, am I enough? Am I showing up? Um, and am I enough? At this point in time, that used to be also a struggle, that I had. People pleasing, am I enough? And then felt like if I was a good girl and I showed up and did it with everybody's expectations, then that was enough. But internally, I was dying. Internally, I wasn't enough because I wasn't showing up for myself.
Yep. So that was a beautiful way of avoiding the question. I love that. It was great information. And we're going to touch on that. But let's start with the initial question of, is the fear of failure different than the question of, am I enough for you? Or are they tied together somehow?
Um, for me, ooh, they are tied together.
Yeah, that would make sense. How are they tied together for you?
Um, because if I felt like I was enough, then I wouldn't necessarily have that fear of failure, because I would already have what I need inside to show up and not have that fear of again, like, am I enough?
Yeah. So we're using these perceived failures as evidence to prove and answer the question of, am I enough? So really the root problem to address is the question of, am I enough? Because you're using the unknown and failure and all that other stuff as evidence to answer the question of, am I enough?
Yeah.
What is enough?
It's like, oh, that is a that what is enough?
Mhm.
Um, that is a great question. Am I enough? Um,
What does it mean?
for me, it means that I'm showing up for myself, that no matter what situation or stress comes my way, that I can trust myself to answer it. Like, I have the ability to know that I am enough no matter how I show up, that I'm showing up authentically as myself.
That was the best therapeutic answer that doesn't mean anything, right? Like, that was the great logical response, but it wasn't a true response for you. You processed it logically and not asking yourself. So take a moment and close your eyes. You can get a hand on your heart. And I want you to breathe in through your nose, sigh it out, and go into the body and listen for the answer. What is enough? What does it mean to be enough?
Hmm. Maybe I don't have an answer for that. Maybe that's yeah, that's an area. I don't have an answer for that.
Because there is no answer. Yet your entire life, you've been seeking the answer outside of you, but you don't even have the answer. Therefore, you are basing it off of, you made a very good observation in saying expectations.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Whose expectations? I'm going to guess probably not yours.
That's probably a great guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you could choose the expectations you wanted to meet to be enough, what might those be?
That I matter.
Okay, and how do we know if we matter or not?
I was not prepared for.
Oh, come on, you have listened to you have worked with me. What do you mean you're not prepared? You're like, "I know we have a time limit, but this is gonna take me an hour of journaling." No.
Um,
You get
I
to choose.
yeah. Um, I totally lost my train of thinking.
Yeah, I know. I just threw a bomb in your brain. So, we've been operating off of expectations that were pushed on us at some point, right? By well-meaning parents, maybe, maybe not well-meaning parents, environment, society, blah, 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 right? All of this external stuff that we're trying to seek the validation outside of us to prove that we're enough, but we can't answer it ourselves and we don't actually know what enough is. So it's just a goalpost that keeps moving that we never feel enough. And our brain, in a survival response, which is what your brain is meant to do, is keep you surviving, goes, we need to find evidence to match our beliefs because we need to be in control of what happens next in order to survive. So in the pre-interview, you were talking about, or even in this, you were talking about the fear of unknown, right? Well, the fear of the unknown is your brain going, see, if you stay stuck in this known of you not believing you're enough, we know how to handle this pain. We have survived this pain. We have evidence that we can live in this pain. It sucks. Like, it's not fun. It's not pleasant, but that's why we keep cycling it because your brain knows how to survive in it. And when we go through these periods of healing and an awakening or whatever you want to call it, all of a sudden we start to go, I don't want to just survive. I don't think that's the key to life.
Right.
So what is the key to life that all of this healing work is meant to teach us and meant to help us grow into? According to your definition, what is it that you think the key to life or the goal of life is?
Uh, I to truly like for me is to finally relax and love myself.
Mm. Okay, so where are you making choices in life that are going the opposite of that?
I'm still showing up in pleasing people mode,
Yeah.
like survival, because it's like the back of my hand. Survival mode. It's what I know.
What everyone is designed to do until you have an awakening to realize, I don't think that's the key to life is just surviving it.
Yeah. And saying no is something that like setting boundaries and saying no. Um, are something that I have like started incorporating in my life that I used to work and then just do the next task, and read the room and check to see how everyone's else's emotions are being handled. And then I would operate from the emotions that I was seeing in the room.
Yeah. And where did you learn to do that?
My mom,
Yeah. Around what
I'm
age?
like 5, 6 years old, maybe sooner than that.
Yeah, because we're just little sponges at that point. We don't have the prefrontal cortex, the logical adult part of the brain fully developed. And so, in order to survive in our environment, we learn to adapt. I'm also a very selfish creature, so we think everything has to do with us, right? So, if mom loses it on us because we said no to her, we don't want to clean our room. I'll just use a very innocuous example, but there's other stuff in there we can get into. And I see mom loses her shit on me because I said I didn't want to clean my room. I now equate that as a 5-year-old as, oh, I'm in charge of her emotions. Oh, what I do makes her upset with me, right? So we develop this people pleasing, codependency, whatever you want to call it, cause and effect wiring in our brain. When I say no, when I set a boundary, when I don't know how to handle my own feelings because I'm a child and I see an adult, the primary caregiver of me, not be able to regulate her feelings, I now don't feel safe. So I've got to survive. What can I do to survive in this moment? People please.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
what I'm noticing even during this interview is you're asking me questions, I'm trying to find the right, correct answer.
trying I'm trying. Yeah, that's why I don't buy it. It's very inauthentic, no offense, but your voice is like, "Okay, let me say the right therapy-based answer that I know in my conditioning is gonna get her to stop asking this uncomfortable question," rather than actually come through with what your truthful answer is.
Yeah.
And then you use a nice little deflection of avoiding an actual question that you didn't know how to answer because you didn't have the right answer.
Yeah, the quote unquote right answer. And I noticed that my thought got stuck in the back of my brain. Like I couldn't move it forward. It's so interesting. It's so, yeah,
It went into the functional freeze again.
I did. 100% went into the functional freeze, which is going to be something for me to dive into.
Well, let's practice right now. That's a survival response, right? We have 4 to choose from. We usually have a strong 1, so yours would be freeze. So in the moments of, let's say, a freeze response, what would be the opposite of somebody who's frozen?
Movement.
Movement. Okay, so let's practice that, and then I'm gonna have you answer the question again of, um am I enough? Okay, so what that can look like is shaking, moving the body, just intentionally trying to get the body to move, some sort of somatic movement, right? And your camera's not on. So if you want to like convulse or like spin around in circles, sometimes you can dance, like whatever that is to move to remind your brain, hey, we don't have to go in survival. We're safe. Like we're not in that past situation you have to protect us from. We're here in the now. And then just ask yourself, what is enough? Don't worry, we're still here, people. Just keep listening. She's moving.
I'm moving, trying to move my body. Like, yeah, I'm safe. um, am I enough? Like, what comes through for me is being present.
Okay. So why are you not enough in this present moment?
Because I don't have the answers for everything.
Okay. And why does that feel unsafe?
Because if uh, it makes me feel like I'm dumb.
Ooh, interesting. Why is being dumb the thing that came up for you? Where was your intelligence challenged or not valued?
Uh, it came up. Oh wow, this is interesting. It came up for me sometimes in school, but also um feeling like I didn't measure up with my parents' standards that they had for my brother.
Their expectations
Yeah.
and the comparison.
Yes.
He was put on a pedestal
Yes.
and you perceived that you were treated differently or less than.
100%.
Therefore, the messaging you received as a child was, I'm not enough. My brother is enough. That is now the standard I have to meet, is whatever my brother is. I know, I've done this a few times, right? And that's why it's a comparison to everyone else of, am I enough? But really, it's that little girl who's asking, am I like my brother? Because he seems to be getting all the love and attention that I want.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's why you self abandon, because you believe that unless you're like your brother, you're never enough.
I feel like I had to feel his even he's a little bit younger than me. I still had to feel in his shoes.
Hmm. Give me an example.
Um, like success. If he was success, like he's an entrepreneur, and I felt like if I didn't measure up, work wise, like I wasn't making enough money, or I wasn't meeting goals, like I wasn't like standard wise with my family, like not making enough money because money equals success.
Yeah. So, how has that shown up in your work stress?
Always searching for another job to make more money.
Yeah. And how did that affect your marriage?
Um, I was the breadwinner in my marriage, and I finally landed a a job that I do enjoy that makes pretty good money, but it's still like in my head, like still not 100% enough. It's still not enough.
Yeah. Because again, the question is not answered by external validation. And that could be money, that could be success, that could be relationships. Yeah.
I also it showed up too because I felt like my ex could be making more money or could also be going to school to better herself.
Hmm. And
Uh,
how did she interpret that expectation?
she pushed against it.
Yeah. Sounds like you didn't really accept her for what she was already doing.
Yeah. Yes.
So now you're not good enough is bleeding onto other people.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
Crazy. Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating? We started off with talking about her and like you guys revisiting things, but really it ties back to she was your mirror.
Yeah.
That she probably, I mean, I don't want to put words into her mouth, but you can see if try this on precise that she probably thought you were enough, but you couldn't hear that, see that, or accept it because you didn't believe it.
One of the first things, like when we first started dating, oh man, years ago, she said, Abby, you are enough.
And your traumatized little child soaked that in and then spent the how many ever years now starting to poke holes in that.
Yes.
Yeah. Because again, we reenact our childhood feelings, experiences in our adult relationships in an attempt to heal them. But without that awareness of that's what's happening, we blame our partner as the source of our unhappiness rather than our partner as our mirror to heal.
It was yeah, and it felt the mirror aspect came after, right? Like for me, it came after we were separated. The mirror, like understanding that language in itself of like mirroring what's in your life is mirroring back to you, and understanding that and how do you process that and do with the information that you find out.
Yeah. Because pain has a purpose. And oftentimes we don't become bright, shiny diamonds without being coal first with a lot of fucking pressure on us.
100%.
You don't change in the happy times.
No, you have to have the. For me, I know like I can have to have the pain because even just today, even during this interview, like there's the yeah, it's like holy shit, like I came in with this and here we are. Yeah, yeah. Um,
It's fine. I keep just looking at your emoji going, yeah, exactly. Like, you got this. You got this, kid. So part of this is getting out of the head and going into the body. Because notice when you tried to logic it and give the right answer, we had a bunch of stuff that was useless. But when we got inside the body, we
whoa,
checked in with ourselves, we actually had more progress, more understanding.
yes.
So what do you think your body's been trying to communicate to you when it's keeping you up at night overthinking?
Um, that they're trying to keep me safe.
What?
My own thoughts.
Right, but
Like
what's the theme of those thoughts?
uh, theme goes back to fear and am I enough?
Yeah. So oftentimes I like to look at our body as our body is not broken. Our body is actually working very, very well. It's just that we don't know how to interpret what our body is telling us. And so we'll feel a sensation in the body and then our brain goes to work to go, where is the threat? Right? Because when we're laying in bed at night, there is no threat to our physical well being. It is all mental. And that's where we start to spin up stories that then actually feed the fear and the anxiety and the hormones being dumped into our body. And we make up stories of like, that must be the threat. I'm a failure. I failed this. They're not calling me back. Look at all the evidence of I'm not enough. Instead of going, hey, body, you seem to be trying to protect me from something so much so that rest is not safe right now. That's why you've woken me up or that's why you won't let me sleep. Okay. Is there a problem to solve for right now? Probably not because we can't solve for problems when we're super tired, right? We're almost like little drunk humans when we're sleep deprived. Okay. So the best thing for me to do is get sleep. So body, what is the body need in order to not feel like there is a threat? And that's where we have to start going, hey, all these thoughts keep feeding the feeling that's keeping me in threat survival mode. How can I get these out so my body doesn't need to keep onto this right now so we can get some sleep and actually effectively problem solve? And this takes practice, believe me. Part of it is choosing our thoughts, recognizing our thoughts. We have 60,000 plus thoughts a day. They can't all be true, right? And most of them are just the same thoughts we've had the day before and the day before that because the stimuli coming into our body by way of our five senses is pretty similar to what it was the day before. We're creatures of habit. So very little new stimuli in our everyday lives. That's why you can go on like a spiritual retreat or go on vacation and not have the same sleep problems that you have at home because it's new stimuli. So a couple of things that I like to do when my brain is spinning at night is I will write them down, to help my brain process out of the emotional state and get into a logical state. So it's getting out of the amygdala that's dumping a bunch of hormones into our body and getting me into my prefrontal cortex where logic lives. That way the hormones stop. Um, and then I actually look at what's the actual problem to solve for. All right. So you can even and if you guys are watching this on YouTube, the writing of the hand, you can just be scribbling on a piece of paper as you're processing. Your body kind of still uses it as a way to process out what you're thinking and feeling. It doesn't have to be, writing out the actual words. And that can be a really great exercise, especially if the thoughts are racing and like trying to craft out even the letters feels like it's too slow of a process. So that helps. And then you just kind of keep asking yourself, what is the actual problem here? And then you may come up with 2 to 3 problems, right? And you go, when am I going to solve these problems? Let me give myself the time. Like tomorrow after I stop for coffee on the way to work, I'm going to take 2 minutes in the parking lot and I'm just going to write out a couple of different solutions for this problem. That problem I can't deal with until next week, so that's going to go on a next week thing, right? And you give your brain that peace of mind that cool, we know we have these problems now. Right now is not the time to solve them. I'm going to intentionally find time to solve them, right? So after you've done that exercise, then you get back into bed and you go, now it's time to sleep. And anytime your brain wants to poke that problem up again, you go, no, no, it's now time to sleep. And I'm going to choose a different thought, right? So I'm going to think about emojis. I'm going to think about what I had for breakfast that day. I'm going to think about hearing the rain on the roof, right? You're going to focus and control your thoughts to not keep going back to the problem. And it's going to be really annoying to practice that. But you will realize the more you practice it, the easier it becomes to not have those intrusive thoughts keep coming in.
Think you say that sounds like sometimes yeah. So you get up out of bed and write it down. Like
I mean, if I'm laying there for like 15 minutes and it's still happening, me laying there another hour isn't going to help,
that's true.
right? I mean, you could take melatonin or some sort of sleep aid, but you're probably going to wake up in the middle of the night as soon as that's worn off, and then you're there at 2 a.m. Um,
3 a.m., 3:30 a.m.
I mean, and like, oh god, the hormones, like the other hormones, yeah. I've just accepted that I wake up at 3:30 in the morning and not fight myself or blame myself. Now, granted, I work for myself, so if like I mean, I get my kids to school. If I want to come back and take a nap, I can. I don't. I've just learned like, okay, well, I'm going to be tired that day. Big deal. I can get sleep tomorrow night. Um, Instead of all that pressure of like, God, if I don't you get enough sleep now or only have 2 hours left, I oftentimes don't even look at my clock because that just adds more like of that pressure, perceived stress.
Stop doing that then.
Yeah, just go like, I know I'm up. It's probably 3:30. Hey, what does that need to do? Sometimes I'll allow myself to pick up my phone, which I know goes against all advice. And I go, I'm just gonna let myself scroll for like 30 minutes. Unless it's like, I'm gonna go watch Happy Dogs. I'm gonna be intentional about what my FYP feeds me. I'm gonna go actively seek calming things. And sometimes I'll listen to YouTube where it's got like really nice sounds or a meditation to kind of just get my brain calm. Cause I look at it as if I can get rest, even though it's not sleep, that's better than stressing out the next 3 hours.
Do you, like, focus with the breathwork aspect of it and during that time?
Sometimes, usually in full disclosure, my kids will co-sleep with me sometimes. So usually I have one of them in the bed. Sometimes we'll go take a hot bath. That's kind of like my go-to or my bathroom is like my safe space. It's like my only place where I don't get interrupted. Um, and so sometimes I will go do that in the middle of the night. And again, I am just trying to signal to my body, hey, we don't have to sleep. We can just rest. Because sometimes putting on that extra pressure of like we have to get sleep, then triggers cortisol to be released, which is not your body's gonna be like, we have to be awake now. Um, but yeah, it's learning to control your thoughts. And then yes, if you need to write out what it is so that your brain doesn't have to keep looping it. Because oftentimes the brain is looping your thoughts because it's worried that if we don't loop the thoughts, that there's gonna be a threat or a danger and we're not prepared for it. So if you can get it out on paper, every time your brain tries to bring it up, you can go, no, no, we've already got that written out. We don't have to keep harping on it. We will address it when it's time to address the problems. Right now, being sleep deprived, not time to address the problems. Right now, the person that's not texting you back, they're asleep. We're not going to interrupt them to wake them up. So right now, we're not going to address this problem. We'll address it in the morning. Right. And then when you get sleep and you wake up the next day, the emotion will have come down that was tied to it that you may feel like you don't even need to address it or it solved itself. Or, yep, now it's time to address that. Yeah, sense.
Yeah, because I've been so, like, "Oh, I only got" I'm that type where I only get 2 more hours of sleep. I only get an hour left, like, yeah, and then
And it stresses you out. Does it?
it absolutely does, and then I feel like I'm awake longer and my mind is looping and
It's better than coffee. It will kick you right awake, but then you'll feel groggy instead of being like, I'm just gonna allow myself to relax. Maybe I'll go read a book, right?
right. Yeah. Yeah. Those early morning hour loops, and now even now going, like, even learning what I'm learning in this session is, like, there like, what is that? Like, "Oh, there's something for me to learn here," where I start working on this.
Stop battling your body.
Yeah, and learning that's another thing, is, learning my body because I've been so focused outwardly that being it like, anxiety is normal,
Mhm.
like, for me, and then so, like, learning to understand what your body is saying and where you hold that emotion at.
It's a very interesting observation that anxiety is normal because I think millions of people relate to that. And what I hear is ignoring my body's alarm bells is normal.
Yes.
Yeah, your body's not broken.
It's like your body, like, you when you hear, like, in relationships, "Oh, that's a red flag, that's a red flag." I'm ignoring my body's red flags.
Yeah, how's it working for you?
Yeah, it's not. It's yeah, yeah.
All of these coping skills, right? To try to numb, to distract, to avoid all of what our body is trying to feel. We all want to feel better. We all want to feel peace. Yet we are ignoring the feelings our body is bringing up for us. Little bit of an oxymoron, little bit of counterproductivity happening, right? In order to feel better, we need to feel what we're feeling, not avoid it, numb it, distract it.
Right.
Mind blown. Right? It's illogical. You can't argue it, you know?
You can't, and sometimes even in those moments when your mind is looping and you're trying to figure out a solution or a problem, I still find myself freezing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's your body's well-oiled way of coping with stress.
Wow.
Yeah. And so part of that is and again, I don't know how much knowledge you have. I'm just going to pretend like this is the first time somebody's listening to this podcast and we're going to go through it. We have our logical part of our brain sitting right behind behind our forehead called the prefrontal cortex. That's the logical, rational processing of our brain. That, and we also have our amygdala, which is kind of middle back part of the brain, which is the emotional response part of our brain. Our emotions are hormones being dumped from the amygdala into the body that then triggers increase in heart rate, muscle tension, tightness, uh, anxiety type feelings, heavy breathing, like all of those responses that a body needs in order for things to move or things to freeze or some sort of survival response. I look at our logical part of our brain as the adult part of our brain and our emotional part of the brain as our childlike part of the brain. So when I do inner child work with people, we're addressing that inner child, the emotional part of the brain. Now, what's happening in the brain is when the emotions start to rise, aka the hormones increase, it really shuts off that prefrontal cortex. It floods the brain. So in therapy, that's what they call it, flooding of the brain. So you literally cannot access the logical part of your brain when the emotions or the hormones flood your brain. That's why you can be in conflict with someone and you shut down, right? You freeze, and then the next day you're like driving to work and you're like, I shouldn't have said this, and like when they said that, oh God, I wish I had said that. Your logic is working then, but in the heat of the moment or in the emotion of the moment, you go into a survival response: fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. Now, you're a functional freeze, meaning that your brain has basically put you into a freeze, but you can still move about your day and still get your responsibilities done. But mentally, you're completely shut down. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So, part of that is learning, okay, I need to address the hormone response that's happening in my brain and body in order to logically or creatively problem solve. Right? So when your brain is looping and the anxiety is kicking in, okay, hormones have taken over. That's why I'm feeling stuck. Okay, how can I address what's happening? So that's why we talked about with freeze, get movement going. You're actually discharging the energy that's stuck and the hormones that are feeding it. Because hormones kind of like dissipate, right? So when we can help them move, fighting, sometimes screaming into a pillow, the fight response, punching a bed, like getting that rage out, that is discharging that energy. We're not doing it towards someone, right? We're handling our own body stuff. The flight response, going for a run, very effective for flighters, right? Being able to move a house around the house, like if you can't go for a run, but moving, right, also helps of like getting away from what you perceive your body's telling you to run. Well, let's go give it that action. And then the fawn response, the people pleasing, is actually pleasing yourself, getting your back into your body instead of feeling like you have to go towards the thing that you perceive as attacking you and like make it better. Is like, how can I get back into my body and soothe myself because I'm looking for somebody else to soothe me in the fawn response. So those are different kind of ways that I teach, especially in my men's program, like how to handle the survival response to get it to come down, get the emotion to come down enough where the logical and the brain can work together. So inner child work, it's basically you going into as an adult and talking to your emotions as if they're a little child. You even give it like you look at yourself as like you're a little girl or a little boy, right? And so that's how you can get those two parts of your brain to work together when most of the time they don't. And for that emotional part of your brain or the child part of your brain not to drive behavior and actions. That's where we get into problems in relationships and with people. It's an all survival response. We're all just trying to survive. And when we have two people stuck in survivor mode trying to have connection with each other, it's basically two wounded inner children trying to get the other person to heal them, but you're both children trying to make relationships work. And I don't know if you've been around kids. They don't know how to make relationships work. They're just reactive little sponges that have no emotional regulation until they learn those skills or not. And so part of that is when we get, again, down into the logic, creative problem solving, that's when we can actually address what the root of the issue is. So it's very rarely about the thing y'all are fighting about or disagreeing about or having conflict over. It is always the vulnerable thing underneath that your body's actually trying to protect. Right. So for you, it was the protection of, I don't think I'm enough. And so I'm going to protect that with whatever coping mechanism in my relationship that I did.
trying to make more money, trying to tell her to go make more money. See, we can be enough if we just get to these goals. And then we get to those goals and you're like, not enough. Let's try this, this, and this. And she's just going, I thought this was the path we were taking. Wait, we're here. And now you are to be over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Take a deep breath in. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah. And what do you want to do with that information now?
I'm still figuring out what to do with that information because it's a lot. Like it's what do I want? Where do I I'm all like again seeking approval because I'm like, where can I be better at that at with?
Yeah. Is it tied to a lot of doing and action?
Yes, I'm a performer and don't know a value-based love.
Okay. Are you a human doing or a human being?
Um, I would say that I'm human doing, but I want to be a human being.
You are a human being. You perform as a human doing. So I've been having this. I work with a lot of men, right? And so that is like men to a T is the doing, the performance, the protecting, the providing, the earning, the fix it, right? And it's all based in doing. And one of the clients that I spoke with this morning, uh, we were having very deep conversations like this, and he kept going back to action and doing. And he's a heavy smoker too. And so on our call, it was like an hour long. He was starting to light up his third cigarette. I was like, "Don't light it. That's you trying to act and do something to protect whatever uncomfortable feeling you're having. So stop for a second." And I had him do some breathing exercises to get into what he was trying to use the smoking to compensate for or cover, like a tool that he was using. Smoking is one tool, right? And it's not the only tool that can address what's actually going on. And part of that was him feeling like he wasn't enough in his marriage. And I said, based on whose standards, right? And so that's where the work for you now moving forward is, how can I be enough instead of do enough?
What? That's heavy because my a lot of my value is based in performance.
Yeah. And again, you have a lot of evidence that that still doesn't help you feel how you want to feel.
Sure. Yeah.
So when you were talking about loving yourself and showing up for yourself more, is that based on what you do or who you are, which is another form of be?
It's a transition for me. It's a huge transition, like a huge transition because going from comfortable to uncomfortable. So from performing to being.
Hmm.
And uncomfortable is being for me.
Well, wasn't it uncomfortable for you to do and it never be enough? When were you comfortable with that?
Well, I could check the boxes.
Yeah. And then you'd add more boxes to the list.
I would.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
never enough.
Never enough. Always searching for another box to check.
Yeah. And all of those boxes had to do with expectations of other people. And you were chasing approval and validation from everyone outside of you. And you could never do enough to feel wanted, valued, and accepted, correct?
Correct.
And that was uncomfortable.
Yes. Is I get, like recognizing like what you say, like being in your body and being, because even rest is uncomfortable for me because I feel like I need to be in action.
Hmm. Yet your body is forcing you into rest by way of your free state, is it not?
It does. Like, yes. Like,
Because you're not choosing it, so it's going to choose it for you. It's going to make you sick. It's going to find ways for you to have to rest because you're not choosing it.
yes, prime example is surgeries.
Yeah.
Prime example is surgeries and not having the mobility that I previously had.
Weird how that works. She's got 2 surgeries coming up. So, on your legs, so you won't physically be able to move. So your body has manifested, "Hey, I've tried every way I know how to get you to stop and rest. You won't listen? Here you go."
Yes.
Your body wins every time. I don't know if y'all know this. I mean, it'll take you out of this world. It'll kill you.
Yeah.
if you don't listen to it.
So like the when the how do you I guess like how do I move from the act of doing to being?
You choose it. So
Because
let's get a definition of what being is, so that we have at least a logical or conceptual understanding of what it means to be versus do. So, um, trying to think, is there a specific example of where you default to performance versus just being, or you don't know how to be in a certain situation versus do?
um or I guess perform it like dude like work. I mean, can't work because I work with clients and things like that.
Yeah.
My work is always like solving other people's problems. Like I'm really good at solving other people's problems, but
You think you're really good at solving other people's problems, but you actually are not. You're good at maybe asking them better questions than they're asking themselves, but you actually have no say on whether they solve the problems or not. Correct?
that is correct. Yeah.
Ah. You tied it to performance when really it's just who you're being in those moments that's helping them have new awareness. I'm not solving your problems, Autumn.
Yeah.
I'm teaching you how I perceive things and how I look at the world. You can choose to say, fuck this lady, or you can choose to listen to it and think how it applies to your life and then take action on that. I have no say on that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that for you. It's just who I'm being that's benefiting you to some extent, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, a lot of stuff in this session today. Like, yeah.
Oh, good thing it's being recorded. You're going to have to listen to it. When I but it's not what I'm doing. Yes, I'm doing a podcast interview with you, sure. But it's really about who I'm being that has built a trust, right? It's who I've been through the entirety of your experience of me, both in coaching and in listening to me over like a year now.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily what I'm doing. It's how I'm showing up. It's how you're witnessing and watching what I'm sharing, all based on my own integration of it. And I think that's one of the bigger differences I hear in people that work with me. I'm not a therapist, right? So I don't diagnose or treat mental health disorders. That's the main component of what makes me different. But also, I've integrated a lot of what I teach. Like these are all healing perspectives and tools and skills that I learned over time. So that's why I'm able to model them, give you specific examples of how they show up in my life, right? How I choose to see it. I'm just sharing with you what my perspective is from information that you're giving me, because that's who I am, which is, again, another form of being.
Yeah.
This is how I view the world. It's who I'm being, not what I'm doing for you, because I'm not doing anything other than asking you questions.
Yes. So the integration between doing and to being.
Yeah. So that's going to be the process of you recognizing when you're doing versus when you're being, and even asking, what would being look like in this moment? So, for example, let's just say with clients, it's now going into the perspective of, I have no say over what they do. I have no say over how they hear what I have to say, but I'm going to be a safe space for them, which means I'm not going to judge them. I'm going to ask good questions. I'm going to share my perspectives on things that they share with me. And I'm being a great support system for them. Whether they choose to accept that, whether they choose to enjoy that, whether they choose to do anything with it, I'm being me. I'm not doing it so that they can love me. You have no say over whether they love you or not. You just get to be you. So then when we move that over to, let's just say, wrapping it up in a nice, pretty little bow, conversations with the ex-wife, are you trying to do and perform in those conversations versus just be? Do you guys have kids? I can't remember if you did.
She had three adult kids, and we have grandkids.
Okay. So let me just kind of give you an example with kids. So think of the grandkids, right? Um, if they trip and fall and scrape up their knee, what would you do?
I would ask them first, like, oh, if they're okay, and then
Mm.
take care of the wound. The wound.
Right? let me ask you this. If they had their feelings hurt by somebody at school and they were upset about it, what would you do?
I would ask about the situation and what they're feeling,
Okay.
and I, well, yeah,
Yeah.
ask how they're feeling and how if their feelings are hurt or where does it. I've asked them before, like, where does it show up for you? Because kids are so honest.
They are. And they're very intelligent, believe they are. When you teach them this stuff, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So look at the difference between the doing and the fixing, right? There is a bloody need that we need to take care of and get it cleaned out and all that. That is the doing, right? So doing is not necessarily bad. It is called for in certain situations, right? The being is you were there with them as they're having an emotional experience and you're getting them to process it. So they could choose not to open up to you. They could choose not to share with you how they're feeling. But you're showing up because you feel like that would be really beautiful for you to do, for somebody to do for you. So you're going to go do it for them. But it's really who you're bang in that of, I'm just here to hold space for you. You want to talk about it? No? Okay. Do you want to get some ice cream? Okay, let's go do that.
Yeah.
So it's really looking at, because the doing, and that's where you're going to have to check in. Is my doing a performance that I'm trying to earn or have an expectation of an outcome, which is form manipulation? Trying to earn their love, their approval, their acceptance? Or is it who I'm being? So let's go into like dating relationships. If you want to text somebody, right? Are you doing it because this is what you're supposed to do? Or are you doing it because you just genuinely want to text them, right? If they say something that upsets you, do you keep quiet or do you advocate for yourself? Well, if I say something, it might upset them. I don't want to upset them. That would be the doing. It's actually the not doing. That's the trauma response versus I want to be somebody who is authentic and shows up for themselves and also communicates when things hurt me. That's who I want to be. So the action tied to that is what?
The action is well, the beat. I'm confused.
It's I'm using a lot of do and be in there. Who you're being will have some action tied to it, right? It's not just like I'm going to sit there and do nothing, but it's I guess the intent behind it. If we're doing actions to control an outcome, that would be the doing side versus I am me and I choose to be somebody who advocates for themselves. That means that I'm going to use my voice, whether through texting or a phone call, to say, hey, when you did this, this hurt me in this way, kind of a thing. As opposed to I'm not going to text because I don't want to upset them, which is tied to an action or a result. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. I can totally relate to that texting aspect because
A lot of people can.
when and that thought, like, also self-abandonment, like, I text and then be like, wait for hours and then, like, no text and then be like, self-abandon again and send another text and no response.
So tell me why that's self-abandoning in your mind.
Be-
Exit.
because I was, l- I guess feeding, like, it was feeding me. It was feeding me, like, if I the like, anxiety, like, the anxiety in me, like, if I just text one more time, maybe I'll get a response, and then that would hit me, and then I text again, and then be like, "Okay," and then wait, and no response, like,
Yeah. So the self-abandonment piece is what? Why you're leaving that as self-abandonment.
is because I would have advocated for myself and said, "Hey, I know notice a difference in the way that we're communicating, and I first just want to throw this out to have a conversation about it. And if you're not interested, then
Even that to me is self-abandonment.
really,
Yeah.
wow,
Because look at the stories you're creating, right? So I text someone and 6 hours goes by, which is a pattern break of previous behavior. So your default thing is they're leaving me, they're not interested, negative about you is what my assumption is, right? Okay. It's the self-abandonment that you think something is wrong with you. Because there could be a million different things happening, right? They could be super busy. Their phone could have been broken. They could be in the hospital, right? But you default to, oh, something's wrong with me. So even if they don't like you or they're not choosing to communicate with you, that they're not choosing to acknowledge that they didn't text for several hours and give you an explanation as why, because they're considerate of your experience of them, you valuing you would mean that person then becomes less valuable to you because they don't value you and they don't value or consider your experience. And that's not somebody that's probably a healthy partner. So we can actually, and again, it takes practice of this to go, ooh, I don't like that they haven't texted me in like 2 days. How do I feel about that? Are they trying to play games? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have that information. That's a story I'm creating. What I have is that I haven't heard from them in 2 days. Okay. Let's say I hear from them again. Now, am I being too rigid or is this somebody where I'm trying to make too much meaning out of texting? I don't know yet. We don't know each other that well yet. Okay, I'm going to take some time and I'm just going to observe how this happens. If I want to text him, I'll text him, right? But for you to default to that you're the problem, that there's something wrong with you that somebody else does not want, or this is a slow form of rejection, ghosting, abandonment, whatever. If you have somebody who's inconsistent in their communication with you and does not consider the impact that has on you, one, we can look at, do we have too high expectations as a form of control? Two, do they really value connection with us? Because I firmly believe you will not be confused by somebody who is into you.
Very true. Yeah.
So if you value, I want to feel safe in a partnership. I don't want to do that where I have to control every aspect of how that person shows up for me because that's not sustainable. Then I'll never know if I'm enough as I am for them or if it's because I performed and did all the things that I then now have to sustain for the entirety of the relationship. If they want to get to know me, the invitation's there. I will make opportunities for them to get to know me because I'm interested in them. And if they don't want that, that doesn't mean anything about me.
Wow. There's so much value I've put on other people.
Because you're trying to seek their validation because you don't believe you're enough. This is where it shifts, right? So this is where we start to look at those behaviors and go, woo, there's that sneaky, am I enough? This happened to me in the past week. I went on a great date last week, a few days ago, actually. And he is super communicative. He even said at the end of the day, he's like, I want to make sure that we're communicating on the same page. Are you interested in seeing me again? I said, I'd love to see you again. And our schedules are bananas these next 2 weeks. I will take the primary guilt of that. My schedule is bananas. And we both have kids, so, like, navigating kid stuff's gonna be a little tricky. I've heard a few texts from him, but it hasn't been a whole lot of texting. And previous me from, like, a year and a half ago loved the texts all day long, but it creates a false sense of intimacy. And I have enough trust in myself and in how he showed up in that to go, I actually don't think connection is built over text. And I'm not actually craving being on my phone with it. Hey, I had like 10 hours of calls today. I had 10 hours of calls on Friday. I had a CrossFit competition yesterday and then coached my soccer game and then I was dead to the world for the rest of the night. Like, I don't want to be on my phone. And I'm also not going to, I'm just observing. We're very early on in this. And I'm not going to place any meaning on, he's responsive to me. I'm responsive to him. He said we're going to see each other again. I'm now just leaving that up to him to figure out the next step because I want him to lead. And I'm not making it mean that I didn't hear from him a whole day. I actually forgot to text him yesterday. That didn't mean I was not interested, right? And so it's looking at those moments of I've built a really full life by design. Dating has not been a massive priority for me. And I get to look at I'll be okay regardless of how this unfolds.
Yeah.
I'm going to be good. I'm going to learn from it if I need to. Or it's going to be him or better. Because I know I am valuable. I am enough. If he doesn't see that, that doesn't change how I'm enough. It just means we're not compatible. Cool.
Wow. Yeah. So resonating with like, how can I change? Yeah.
It's learning to practice it. Those are thoughts that have to be practiced. This was not how I've always operated.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. I had to learn to love myself in order to allow somebody else the opportunity and invitation to even have a chance at loving me.
Yeah.
Oh, Autumn. How's that? How you feeling?
Huh. Some of I have homework. Yes, 100%.
What's been your biggest takeaway from our conversation?
Um, the whole aspect of really from doing to being.
Mhm.
Um, that regardless of who I am as a person, I have to learn what enough looks like for me
Yeah.
and not seeking validation outside of me because I don't need it. But that's what I've learned. It's like a learned thing from a child.
Yeah. And why do you think that is a strategy subconsciously or consciously that parents or society would use for you to not feel like you're enough?
Hmm. Because I get like, because it keeps you seeking validation outside of yourself and not.
You're easier to control.
You're easier control. Yeah, you're easier to control.
And so for a parent who doesn't know how to parent well and feels out of control, subconsciously being able to create these conditions where I can control you better by my emotional dysregulation and you feel responsible for it, I now get the outcome I want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are probably. Woo.
Mhm. It's really hard to be with somebody who's self-aware because you cannot be controlled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes it very difficult to be with, and it's also the most, like, freeing thing for both parties involved because I don't have to worry about like, he's responsible for his emotions. If he wants my support, he's welcome to ask, and, like, I'll definitely support him in that, but I also recognize I'm in control of me, you're in control of you, and we can choose each other if we want. In every relationship, friendship, family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are probably the two biggest takeaways I've had today. That I'm like, there's I got cracks. I got, like, yeah,
New layers.
new layers.
Healing is not linear.
Nope, nope,
Nope.
not at all.
Yep, you've graduated 101, now it's on to 201. All right, Autumn. Well, thank you so much today for coming on and being so coachable and so open to sharing. I always love it when people share. So from me to you, thank you. This was super valuable, super relatable.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon. Have
All
a
right.
good one.
You too. Bye.
Hey, before we wrap up today's episode, since we're speaking specifically to the holidays, this holiday, give yourself a gift of a regulated nervous system. How do we do that, Tara? Yes, that sounds great. Well, my Self-Aware Army is the monthly membership community where we do live breathwork sessions twice a month. We also have we have over 40 replays of specific breathwork sessions speaking to the main topics and challenges that I speak to on the podcast, including dealing with uncertainty, navigating grief after relationship loss, reparenting your inner child, how to regain your confidence, how to find yourself again. We have over 40 replay sessions, various different topics of breathwork. Now, what is breathwork? Here's how I generally describe it. Most people are walking around like boiling pots of water with the lid about to burst off. But most people either have lifted the lid before and it created a lot of destruction and damage, or they keep the lid on there sealed tight because God forbid that thing explodes and we don't know what's going to happen after that. And so we call it anxiety. We call it stress. We try to numb it, distract it, drink it away, numb it away. Just it's doom scroll on TikTok, right? But all of that is in the body. Our body needs to discharge that stress, that anxiety, that release, right? Especially if there is a past history of trauma. All of this stuff is wired in our nervous systems from childhood, and it definitely starts to come out when we're put into relationships, whether that's coworkers, friends, family, partners, you name it. This is when our nervous system gets activated in an attempt to try to complete the trauma loop. Now, trauma, and we deep dive this in, the Self-Aware Army is
anything uncomfortable left in the body. It is not the event that happened. There are traumatic events for sure. It is what's left over in the body that is uncomfortable or stuck there. Right. So that could even be like dad didn't show up to your important soccer game when you were 8 years old, but he was working instead. And you've made up a belief in your head of, I'm not good enough for dad to leave work to come to my game. Or there's a slew of other traumas that are big T traumas that are the obvious ones. But trauma is so subtle in the nervous system and it drives our behavior. Why? Because our body is trying to reenact traumatic experiences, not directly, but indirectly, to try and heal and complete the trauma loop. Now, we are not taught how to discharge that, right? We're not taught. We're told to repress it. We're told to keep the lid on the boiling pot of water. Nobody wants to hear about your shit, right? And so we end up having really anxious struggles. We try to use our relationships to meet our needs, but then they end up triggering us more, and we have nowhere to go with this energy. We call that nervous system dysregulation. And so breath work, specifically somatic breath work, which you may have heard me talk about on the podcast before, lifts the lid and we let all of that out in a safe container, right? You are going to do breath work by yourself. There's going to be nobody around. So you're going to let it all out, whatever needs to come out through way of patterned breathing. And through the patterned breathing, it's going to bring up and activate the nervous system to finally let this stuff out so that you can be clear of it. It is fantastic for completing the trauma loops, for not having to talk about your problems, not having to kind of logic it. We let the body discharge it. Oftentimes you may not even know why your body is releasing what it's releasing, but we're happy to let it go. Why? Because on the other side of that, in the second half of the breathwork sessions, is where we get that euphoria, that almost like a high. We have this out of body experience. We have calm and peace in our nervous system, maybe for the first time ever. And what's so beautiful about the breathwork process, especially if you have a regular practice of it, no more than once a week, but definitely weekly when you're going through an acute stressful phase, is that you actually get to experience a calm, regulated nervous system without anything outside of you changing. These sessions are roughly about an hour long, and you feel far better, more relaxed, more calm, more at peace than you did when you started, but nothing outside of you had to change. And a regular practice is actually where essentially we're turning off the heat completely on the boiling pot and letting it come to room temperature. So the more that you can practice breathwork consistently, the more your body has to discharge. There's less angst, there's less stuff riding underneath the surface, that it takes a lot more heat and a lot longer of a heat to actually even get you to come up to a rolling boil again, right? And you now have a tool and a modality and a skill set to be able to go in and discharge that energy so that you can stay in the logical, rational, intentional part of your brain rather than constantly being in a state of reactivity, which is the emotional part of the brain. So if that sounds at all interesting for you, you can get into the Self-Aware Army for your first month for $1 during this holiday season, because that is my gift to you. Please spread the word of breathwork. If I could get this, I need to get this out more, right? Because this is what's been so life-changing and impactful for me. So I invite you to come into the community, come into our breathwork container, and give breathwork a try, even if it's just for the first 30 days for $1. And then depending on the option of whether you just want the breathwork sessions that we have or you want to add in some group coaching, it'll be $39 or $69 a month thereafter, but you can cancel anytime. So if you want to learn more about the Self-Aware Army and breathwork, head on over to unblockyourbs.com/Black Friday and get in on this $1 for 1 month trial that we have going on right now. And come join me and let's give each other the gift of nervous system regulation. So these holidays don't have to suck. All right, until next time, have a good one.